Okay, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and today it's great to have Marlene here. Marlene, you're somebody who has had a lot of creative hand in, lots of different shows that we know. Like Sonic, you've been involved in some Japanese content as well, and Pink Panther, Power Rangers. I mean, the names just go on. And now you have an important role in the creative sector that spans really, kind of spans every category from script writing to doctoring scripts to content consulting and so on and so forth. So you just a really important role at Pink Poodle Productions. So I'm excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So just going back to the beginning, how did your interest in the world of film, of entertainment, of wanting to spend your time in that area, and more on the business side of things, how did that interest begin?
I think I was born this way because there's really not a lot of explanation in my background. I'm the black sheep of the Sharp family. My parents are very practical people. My mom was a teacher. She's a retired teacher. My dad, a retired computer programmer analyst. And I just came out into the world wanting to perform and telling my parents, you be in the audience, only I'm on the stage. So, and it just escalated from there. My parents did take me to a lot of children's theater when I was a toddler. So I think it stuck. It stuck in the way that it wasn't supposed to, I think, in their view. But I always wanted to be on stage and perform. And then I thought, if for some reason I couldn't do that, then be involved in the entertainment business in some other fashion. So I was always curious about the way that stories were told on the screen and how did those people get to be there and why am I here? So I grew up in New Orleans, and at the time, show business really wasn't a part of the ecosystem in the Deep South. Now there's more location filming, and of course, people are content creators online, but not so much when I was growing up. So I was always in search of show business, and that's what led me to the West Coast.
How did you start to break into the industry and get a role and start to have some impact?
I started with grammar school and volunteering for the school Christmas pageant. No one wanted to be the star angel in my first grade play. And I was like, this is outrageous. So what a great opportunity. I just raised my hand and there started my career. And then I always did the talent shows, and I was a theater kid in school. My parents never really encouraged it beyond the school experience. I guess they thought it would run its course and then I would go on to something more practical. But yeah, so did all the shows and was involved a little bit behind the scenes, but quite frankly, I didn't enjoy that as much. I really wanted to perform.
Yeah.
And so I went to college for drama communications, went to Loyola University in New Orleans, and then went to San Diego State for graduate school in musical theater. So I have an MFA in musical theater. And then I knew I loved to sing and dance, but I wasn't really coordinated enough to be a server at a restaurant or do things that you're supposed to do when you're an aspiring actor. I knew that an office job was the day job for me. I needed to do something in an office, and I felt like I could at least learn more about the business and possibly break in through that kind of a back door if I worked at a, let's say, TV station or some kind of entertainment company. So one of my earliest forays was through temping. So I don't even really know if temp agencies operate in the same manner as they did a million years ago when I got into the business. But after graduating, after grad school, moved up to LA and just continued to audition, but was also, and just audition meaning trying to get an agent through workshops and trial and error, sending out by any means necessary. My whole career is an exercise in by any means necessary, as long as it's legal and doesn't hurt anybody except for myself potentially. But I try not to have any collateral damage in my pursuits. But temping was a real blessing for me, although it didn't feel like it at the time. But I was placed very quickly at a number of different companies, just working as an administrative assistant. Sometimes it was clerical work. Sometimes it was running coffee, photocopies, whatever. And then pretty quickly, I landed at this company called Renaissance Atlantic Films, which was a consultancy run by a gentleman named Frank Ward, who was very instrumental in bringing Power Rangers to the world. So he had been the president of Bandai America in Orange County. Orange County, California was where the Bandai North American headquarters was. And so Frank, as the U.S. representative of Bandai, worked very closely with Haim Saban, who had the screen rights from Toei, another Japanese company, and they had, for many years, beat on a lot of doors trying to get Power Rangers to the masses outside of Japan. So it was a huge hit in Japan, but this is the late 80s, early 90s. Other folks hadn't really seen the light. And so they tried and tried for 7 years. They finally got it off the ground outside of Japan. It was on Fox Kids Network in the US, and it just took off after 7 years of hard work and trying. It was an overnight success after 7 years. So then when Frank retired from his role at Bandai, he retained this exclusive consultancy with Bandai. So he would advise them on all of their their toy to the screen properties that were being exported outside of Japan. And so after Power Rangers was such a huge success, it opened the floodgates. So there were many collaborations with Haim Saban, actually, and then other potential partners. So I just came in as a temp, and he was already very successful on his own, Frank Ward, and he was pretty much a one-man operation. He had a director of development, and so when I came on board, I temped for a couple of weeks, and then he hired me full time, and then I ended up working with him for 5 years. And so for actually it was a little over 5 years, and for 3+ years, I was his only employee. So I learned every aspect of the toy-driven entertainment business, and then some. I would even pick up his kids from school sometimes, get his dry cleaning, negotiate deals, decorate the office. We had a few office moves in here, so I learned about signing leases and, real estate and all kinds of things. So it was a boot camp and a graduate program all rolled into one. And that was probably the best preparation I could have had for being in the business that I've stayed in for a lot of years. And also, I was very fortunate in getting to do some voiceover roles. I did a lot of dubbing for Japanese series that were exported. I was in the English language voice cast for a lot of the things that we worked on. So yeah, it was really a benefit to me in a lot of different ways.
So, after that experience, which was, an amazing experience to have, you wound up, shortly after, I think you wound up working on Sonic and being involved, over there. How was that experience for you? Because that was also, it was maybe a similar realm of IP, but it wasn't necessarily the Japanese IP.
Yes, well, SEGA is a Japanese company, but Sonic was developed by it was actually a joint venture between SEGA Japan and SEGA of America. And there is a great book about this tale, this epic tale of rivalries, internal rivalries as well as external forces clashing. It's called Console Wars by Blake Harris. And it's about Sega versus Nintendo, but it's also about Sega of America versus Sega of Japan. And so Sonic the Hedgehog was an initiative that came about through Sega of America, and it was a collaboration sometimes successful, sometimes not, still ongoing between Sega Japan and Sega of America. But actually, my experience working with Frank Ward was instrumental in my being hired at Sega. So I was an employee of Sega here in Los Angeles in the Burbank office when the Burbank office started up in 2015. And it was LinkedIn, which is how you and I met, Ben. So singing the praises of LinkedIn here. On LinkedIn, a recruiter just found me because I am a maniac on LinkedIn. And I guess I cannot be ignored. So anyway, this recruiter contacted me and she said, we are in search of people who have experience working with Japanese entertainment companies. There's a company, and she was very secretive about it in the beginning. You know, there's a Japanese company that is relocating its headquarters from, or its American headquarters from the Bay Area to Los Angeles. And we want people who have dealt with Japan and Japanese IPs and so forth. So I didn't even have to fill out one of those diabolical applications or anything. I did have about 10 interviews, though. The interview process was diabolical, but at least I didn't have to fill out any forms. So, yeah, but that was definitely something that was highlighted on my CV, and it attracted the attention of a recruiter and ultimately led to my being hired at Sega, working on mostly on Sonic the Hedgehog, but I did have the opportunity to work on some of the other intellectual properties too. And I should just also tell you that my current business partner, Blanche Dubois Sharp, she's my partner in Pink Poodle Productions. She's the poodle part of the production. She is right here, and you might hear her from the peanut gallery. There you go. She oftentimes has an opinion about these things because she's been there for a lot of time. So yes, we know. Anyway, yeah. So the background in working with Power Rangers, Digimon, Beetleborgs, all those shows definitely was a step towards working at Sega.
How did the idea for Pink Poodle happen and wanting to build this different type of production company?
I call it forced entrepreneurship because it really got jump started when I lost a job in 2019. I was working for another Japanese company called Level 5. So after I worked at Sega, went to Level 5, which is very similar business model as Sega. The IPs aren't quite as well known outside of Japan, although Yokai Watch is the main claim to fame. And so anyway, I was working at Level 5 in the LA office, and at the end of 2019, Level 5 decided to shut down all of its international offices, and that included Los Angeles, Seoul, Korea, and Hong Kong. So that was the end of my job as the head of production. I was heading production and localization for all the TV and film properties that Level 5 was doing outside of Japan. And so suddenly I didn't have a job, but what I did have was a website called Pink Poodle Productions. So I had started the website when I was at Sega just because people in creative industries seem to need a website to validate themselves. People automatically ask for your website or some sort of online presence, whether it's social media or website. So I had thought way back in 2016 or 17 that it would probably be a good idea for me to at least put up a front, a storefront. And I love pink and I love poodles. So naturally, that was the name of my entity. But it started as just a glorified resume, essentially, and a place to showcase the work that I had done. So I was able to, yes, Blanche, I know you were part of that, and have video samples, writing samples. I also do independent journalism in various entertainment publications. So it's just a place to display my wares. And then suddenly at the end of 2019, when I didn't have a job anymore, I decided that I made the executive decision, this is my employer now. And I'm starting a consultancy because I didn't have another full-time job to go to. But also, I was fortunate that right out of the gate, I did have a couple of consulting projects that came my way just by telling people, simply word of mouth, saying, I won't be at level 5 anymore. Here's what's happening. The office is closing. If you need any help with creative development or PR is another skill that I developed. Marketing, because children's entertainment is very much an amalgamation of marketing and smoke and mirrors. So it's a soft sell of toys and consumer products for kids and families. So marketing is another area that I've worked in. Transferable skills, I guess, is the buzzword that would describe these different things. So yeah, I just made it official, made it LinkedIn official. Once you make it LinkedIn official, there's no going back. And that's the way I've continued to work for the last almost 6 years. It's going on 6 years at the end of 2025. I've worked with a number of different clients on some on a per project basis, some on a monthly consulting basis, and then all kinds of things in between. So yeah, that's how it started.
Mm-hmm. So you've been doing through this. You've been also doing script writing and helping people with content. So you've got this like wide skill set here. What are some of the projects you've been most proud of that you've been involved in?
Well, I'm really proud of my work with the autism community in the last five years. So that started back in 2020 when it was just being thrown into the deep end of a pool type of situation. A friend of mine from the animation business, her name's Beth Mackey, she had enlisted me to be a consultant for a school, a day program for adults on the autism spectrum. And these adults were studying animation as a potential career opportunity. And so rather than going to a day program and playing games or just occupying their time with just general fun stuff, the whole goal of the program was to teach them skills, like teach them animation software and writing and editing and all kinds of things that maybe they could turn into a job opportunity one day. So my friend Beth was working as a fine art life drawing teacher, and she was also teaching Maya, the animation software. And she said, we're about 1 year from graduating the first class of this 3-year certificate program. And there's a lot of discussion internally about what happens to these folks when they graduate and how do we bridge the gap into the entertainment business? Because the approach that was taken was more from a special ed angle as opposed to business or from the perspective of being hired and so forth. So she said, we really need somebody from the industry to come in and at least just could you talk to my bosses? And I said, well, I can do that. I don't know how this applies to the autism community. I was very trepidatious because I didn't want to overstep, and I didn't have special ed experience, but that's led to a series of conversations with the administration, and then they engaged me as a consultant. And I was flying by the seat of my pants. I did not know what I was doing, but I thought, well, at least I can do some experiments that won't hurt anyone. And we're all remote, so no one will get hurt or killed on a set because we're all working from home. And we can try different things. I can bring in guest speakers from the industry, much like what you're doing, Ben, but only with a real-time audience. So we would do Friday guest speakers with people in the industry, and it was very interactive. So the students really loved that. And then we entered the Easter Seals Disability Challenge, and that was mainly just for my purposes to evaluate everybody's skill set really fast. Because the Easter Seals Disability Challenge is a 48-hour film festival. It's between 48 and 72 hours, but it's that you get an assignment and you work on it in this condensed time period, and you sink or swim. So it was a way for me to assemble the team really quickly and see what people were good at and what they might be able to excel at in the future. So we did that, and then we did some independent projects, and then that led to starting a studio for the first graduating class. So we opened Brainstorm Productions, which became an integral part of that day program. So the students would go through a 3-year training program, then they would graduate, go into Brainstorm Productions, and then my role morphed into bringing in work for hire animation projects for them. And so that opened my eyes to the autism community. And also, I began to network with other like-minded nonprofits in Los Angeles. And there are quite a few of them that train people on the spectrum for potential careers in the entertainment business. And entertainment could be video game design and programming. It could be music, dance, filmmaking. So this is a company town, and there are a number of these nonprofits that do this type of training, and that led to me being involved with Autism in Entertainment, which is an umbrella organization that promotes employment of folks on the spectrum in the entertainment and creative industries. And so last year I was a part of the first Autism and Entertainment conference, and that was held at the Skirball Center in Los Angeles. We had about 450 attendees, and the whole point was to unite people on the autism spectrum with potential employers, and to see that there isn't anything scary, that everybody can get along. And quite frankly, there are a lot of people in the entertainment business already who are on the spectrum who just don't know it, who aren't diagnosed. So there should be no bias, because we're all on the spectrum. And that was really a magical experience, and it's led to me working on a number of different projects specifically for folks on the spectrum, but then also bringing folks on the spectrum to projects that maybe weren't intended to be that way, or maybe weren't as inclusive as they could be. And so, it's really been amazing. And so one of the things that I've worked on with Autism and Entertainment is implementing neurodivergent comedy nights at the Laugh Factory. So we did 2 of those shows at Laugh Factory last year, and we've got at least one in the works for this year. And it's been a combination of booking comics who are neurodivergent friendly, so that they know, okay, there are folks on the spectrum who are in the audience, so they might express their pleasure or displeasure in ways that are unexpected, but be aware of that. They might get up and go to a safe space in the lobby, or quiet space, but that's just part of the atmosphere. That's not anything to there's no heckling either way. Everything's in the spirit of all in good fun. And then also, we have implemented people on the spectrum being in the show, so improv performers as well as stand-ups. So that's been really a lot of fun, and I look forward to more of that, I hope.
That's amazing that you've taken that on as such an important initiative to you, and you had a great impact there. Marlene, just the last question that I have: what do you aspire to do at this point? What are your future goals, short-term goals in the next, let's say, year or so, and then also some long-term goals over the next 5 to 10 years? Your vision at this point.
I would love to transition into Tina Fey's career. So I always fancied myself as a Tina Fey type. And I really love the way she is able to write and create projects and act in them, but then also be able to employ her friends, her husband, probably her children too. That's great. I get a lot of satisfaction from helping other folks to get employed, folks on the spectrum, but also all kinds of folks. And it's especially rewarding in the entertainment business when you can help someone get a job, because it is so competitive and it feels like such a Herculean effort. But yeah, I would love to be able to create more projects that come from my brain, because I guess vanity. And I have created stuff and would love to see it on the big screen and the small screen too. And then employ people that I know and respect their work already and who are so deserving of opportunities. And then just to have that control and be able to say, look, you don't have to jump through any hoops. You just have the job. Don't worry about it. It's yours. Go and excel. That that's something that would really make me happy.
Well, definitely excited to see what you'll be able to do over there, and hopefully some of your some of your projects will really get out there much more. And I definitely look forward to continuing to witness the success you have at your own company here in the production space, and I'm excited for what's to come. So thanks for taking the time and doing this, and wishing much success.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate it. And thanks for linking with me on LinkedIn.